The Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI, is the premier investigative agency in India that has a dual responsibility to investigate grievous cases and provide leadership and direction in fighting corruption to the police force across the country. But has the CBI lived up to its stated mission? The CBI in the past has been called a caged parrot by both the judiciary and the media. There have been allegations during both the time of the UPA and the NDA regimes over the CBI being used by the government of the day to settle political scores with their political rivals. The agency has also drawn flack for being selective in its investigation. So, controversy is not new to the CBI. But never in the history of the CBI has the agency faced so much resistance from various state governments. Many state governments across the country today have barred the CBI from investigating matters related to their states. At least 9 states have withdrawn the general consent to the CBI, which means that the CBI will now require the prior approval or permission from these respective state governments if the agency wants to conduct any future investigations in these states. This also means that the CBI will no longer be able to register any fresh case involving officials of the central government or a private person in the state without the state government's consent. As of today, 9 states, one after the other, have withdrawn the general consent to the CBI. The first state to withdraw consent was Mizoram in 2015. Soon, 7 other states followed suit: Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Kerala. Along with these 8 states, Meghalaya too recently joined the bandwagon and withdrew the general consent to the CBI. Meghalaya is the first NDA-ruled state to withdraw investigation consent to the CBI. The BJP is a partner in the ruling coalition, that is the National Democratic Alliance or the NDA in Meghalaya, which Chief Minister Conrad Sangma leads. So why are the states withdrawing the general consent to the CBI? What does it mean for the CBI? How will this affect the premier investigating agency's fight against corruption? The CBI is governed under the Delhi Special Police Establishment DSPE Act of 1946. Section 6 of the DSPE Act deals with the consent of state government to exercise powers and jurisdiction. Section 6 of the DSPE Act states that nothing contained in Section 5 shall be deemed to enable any member of the Delhi Special Police Establishment to exercise powers and jurisdiction in any area in a state, not being a union territory or railway area, without the consent of the government of that state. This section places the CBI in a tight spot. It makes it mandatory for the agency to obtain the consent of the concerned state government before starting its investigation related to a crime in the respective state. So the CBI requires the state government's permission. Not just the state government, the CBI requires the central government's permission too. Section 6A of the DSPE Act relates to the approval of the central government to conduct inquiry or investigation. Section 6A states that the Delhi Special Police Establishment shall not conduct any inquiry or investigation into any offence alleged to have been committed under the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, except with the previous approval of the central government, where such allegation relates to the employees of the central government of the level of joint secretary and above, and such officers are appointed by the central government in corporations established by or under any central act, government companies, societies and local authorities owned or controlled by that government. According to this rule, the CBI also requires the permission of the central government to investigate cases. The DSPE Act makes the CBI a toothless body. It doesn't give the CBI the authority to act on its own, taking suo motu cognizance in the interest of justice without fear or favor in matters related to corruption or other serious offences. When it comes to cases related to central ministers or government functionaries at the centre, the CBI does not get the free hand to act as it wants in the interest of justice. And when it comes to state governments, now with many states also withdrawing the general consent, the CBI is caught between the powers that be. It will be the state and central politicians and the state or central government senior functionaries who will decide what the CBI should or should not investigate. For instance, Meghalaya's decision to withdraw the general consent to the CBI came days after corruption allegations were levelled against Chief Minister Conrad Sangma's brother. When it comes to the CBI, the interference is so much that in 2018 the centre made amendments to the Prevention of Corruption Act that made it mandatory for the CBI to seek the centre's permission before registering a corruption case against any government servant. Which means that the CBI can only investigate the officials the government of the day wants investigated. Clearly, If CBI continues to be toothless, the biggest casualty will be the criminal justice system. If the CBI is not autonomous, the agency will continue to be footballed by and between the center and the state governments. If the CBI is not made an autonomous body, this could hamper investigation and subsequent prosecution in cases. Ultimately, the justice delivery system becomes the biggest casualty. Recently, top CBI officials had told a parliamentary panel that 150 requests for investigation into various cases were pending in the states that had withdrawn the general consent. The Parliamentary Committee on Personal Law and Justice had recently asked the government to assess the need to amend the existing laws or enact a new law that gave the CBI a clear mandate to investigate cases. Not very long ago, the Madras High Court had asked the centre to consider making the CBI an autonomous body that would report only to the Parliament. Various think tanks have suggested several models to give CBI more powers and more jurisdiction and free it from the government of the day that uses it as a private investigation agency to settle scores with their political and corporate rivals. Even the judiciary has asked the centre to free the caged parrot in public interest and in the interest of justice. But now, with both the centre and the states dictating terms to the CBI, the question is, will the caged parrot ever see the light of the day?